All right, welcome and aloha, friends and farmers. Welcome. We're so happy to see you here tonight. All right, I have a question for you guys. If you can go ahead and drop a one in the comment, or if you're on camera, just raise your hand. If you are not familiar with the Hawaii Farmers Union, go ahead and drop a one in the comment there. So for those of you that aren't familiar with HFUU, it really exists to help to strengthen and support local agriculture across the islands, not just through advocacy, but through education and community. And the cool thing is you really don't have to be a farmer to be involved. If you care about eating local, supporting small producers, or strengthening Hawaii's food system, this is really the community for you, which is why I know you all showed up tonight. All right, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Miley Woodhull, and I serve as an Organic Technical Assistant Specialist through the USDA Transition to Organic Partnership Program, also referred to as TOPS, that works with HFUU and CCOF. Now, through TOPS, we're able to provide free technical support to producers statewide. That could really look like help with certification compliance, record keeping, grants, and pathway programs. And tonight is going to be an important one, funding and conservation support. But before we get into good stuff, quick housekeeping. So we're looking forward to hearing from our guest speaker here. And as she's presenting, feel free to drop your questions in the comments and then we'll review those at the end. All right, so without further ado, I am thrilled to announce tonight's keynote speaker, Jolene Lau, our outreach specialist with the USDA NRCS. Jolene, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am honored to be with you this evening. And before I start, I'm checking to see if my director, JB Martin, would like to say a few words as he oversees all of our offices and he's, I think, online showing up as Jolene because I shared my link with him. JB, are you there?
I am Miss Jolene. Thank you very much. I'm not going to say much. I just want to say aloha and thank you for the opportunity. I am very familiar with Hawaii's Farmers Union, and I look forward to continuing the efforts that we have established, even though we've been kind of a little slow here with the transition that we've been in. But Jolene mentioned this to me today, and we want to do everything we can to support each and every one of you in the programs and the services and the technical assistance that we provide throughout the state of Hawaii and the Pacific as a whole. So I greatly appreciate that I'm here tonight with you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, JB.
You're welcome.
I will share my screen and let me know when you can see the slides.
Looks great.
Okay. So again, I am familiar with Hawaii Farmers Union. I receive your emails and I saw that Farm Service Agency had a webinar recently. So I tapped in to see if we could also share information about the programs and services. Um, we are a sister agency of the Farm Service Agency. So under the United States Department of Agriculture, the the larger department, if you will, we are one of many agencies. And so I will go ahead and jump into who we are and what we do. Next slide. Okay. So the mission of Natural Resources Conservation Service, we are the technical specialists helping to address your natural resource concerns on private land. So for all the farmers and ranchers and forest landowners that want to make improvements on their property in terms of minimizing erosion or doing efficient irrigation, those are some of the practices that we'll jump into in the next few slides. But our vision ultimately is having resilient islands with clean and abundant water, healthy soils. That's the catchphrase for the Farm Bill funding that we offer, healthy soils. And we want to help thriving agricultural communities such as yourself. So if you're not familiar with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, we've been around for more than 90 years. So back in the Dust Bowl, when they recognized the wind carried topsoil, valuable topsoil across the states, they recognized how important it was to keep soil in its place, minimize erosion. So we partner with conservation districts. Every island has a conservation district that we partner with. We are, again, identifying natural resource concerns and helping landowners to implement conservation practices. So how we do that, we are authorized by Congress, funded through the Farm Bill. So the financial assistance that is available to all of you comes from congressional authority through the Farm Bill. So when we talk about natural resource concerns, I mean, very, very close to home now is, the erosion that we're seeing from flooding and damages from the storm. Prior to the Kona lows, our mission has always been to address soil, water, air, plants, animals, how to keep all of the resources healthy and vibrant. So addressing the problem areas is where each of our field experts are trained and certified to offer conservation practices that address these resource concerns. So each island has a field office. Hawaii County has 3, and all of our field experts are trained in the 9 steps of conservation planning. So they will walk the property when invited by the landowner. We listen to your conservation goals, what you are trying to accomplish, and then together identify some of the problem areas, take a resource inventory of the property, and go through some of the different tools available, whether it's a soils map or various tools that our field uses. They come up with suggested alternatives. So, for example, if the resource concern identifies erosion control, whether it's the runoff from the heavy rains, the conservation specialist comes up with a suggested plan to help you address that, like, which areas of the property need attention first, or which types of cover crop seed might work best in this area, things of that nature. So the conservation plan, once it's put together, is strictly voluntary. We are not a regulatory agency, and everything is a trust basis between our office and the landowner. So the landowner can use or not use what's in the conservation plan. And the field specialist will also talk to the landowner about the different farm bill or the funding mechanism to help implement that plan. When we talk about funding, sometimes people maybe misuse the word grant. So our financial assistance is a reimbursable based. So once the conservation plan is completed and the landowner applies for financial assistance, this involves the Farm Service Agency. So I don't know if folks on this call tonight remember the information from Farm Service Agency, but they will ask for proof of land ownership and your adjusted gross income. I will get into that in the next few slides, but I did want to point out in phase 3, our step 9. So once the conservation practice is installed, it's our field specialists that come out and certify to make sure that it was installed according to the NRCS specs. So we have hundreds of conservation practices available to use when we're addressing resource concerns. And the pictures on the screen are just a handful of the most common. So starting with cover crops, our um, agency founded by soil scientists knew the value of topsoil and how important it is to not have it wash off and affect the neighbors. So cover cropping, there's many different species. So taking a soil test first would help the landowner with deciding which kind of cover crop would work best and what the soil needs. So kind of a twofold benefit, not just erosion control, but helping build healthy soils. The next picture is an example of a high tunnel system. We also do low tunnel systems. This is very common for the resource concern, whether it's pest control. Sometimes folks are using this to minimize um, like spraying chemicals. Another reason they might use high tunnel is for water. Uh, if they can control in within the high tunnel system, an efficient irrigation system. I also saw a project in Hawaii County where they used a high tunnel system in an area that was windy, so prone to wind damage on her crops. And then the next one, we've got civil and ag engineers on staff that help us with surveying and designing efficient irrigation systems. Not pictured here, but our engineers also help with sediment basins, animal waste containment, and then down at the bottom, the picture of the watering facility. Mulching is another practice that we encourage and can pay for through the Farm Bill. This is helping to keep soil moisture and veg barriers. That picture is to help with erosion control. So Farm Bill, just to put things into perspective, throughout the Pacific Islands area last fiscal year, we made $24 million available through the Farm Bill. So this is a direct deposit, again, reimbursable for contractual agreements with the landowners who want to install conservation practices based on the plan that was done. So on the screen, I've got 4 bullets of just the primary or the the most common of our Farm Bill programs. The Environmental Quality Incentives Program, we accept applications all year round. So again, last fiscal year, more than $20 million went to our farmers and ranchers directly throughout the Pacific Islands. Conservation stewardship, we recognize that our farmers and ranchers are already doing excellent stewardship of their land. And conservation stewardship really is taking the next step and adding some enhancement practices to the property. Regional conservation partnership, that one acknowledges that we may be short-staffed at NRCS, and so we're partnering with other agencies to help us carry out our mission. So I actually have a slide with those examples later. So let's see, conservation innovation grants. Those are made available nationally. That one, the funding has an application period and a deadline. So my best recommendation, if you are interested in finding out as soon as funding opportunities become available, I highly recommend signing up, subscribing for the newsletter. It's e-blasts whenever a press release comes out. So the first program through the Farm Bill I told you was the most popular, most commonly used, over $20 million. And how that worked out last fiscal year, it covered 216 contracts throughout the Pacific Islands. So some of the practices involved for EQIP, improving water quality, conserving the groundwater, increasing soil health, and reducing soil erosion, also improving wildlife habitat. So in the picture, it's cover crop that will help address all of these things listed. Next, we had conservation stewardship. So last fiscal year, 79 contracts received almost 2.5 million. And an example of what we use CSP for was pest management, adding food producing trees, and mulching. Oh, very exciting for Hawaii farmers and ranchers. The Agricultural Management Assistance Program is offered to Hawaii and only a handful of other states. This one is special. Not all states get this pot of money. So last fiscal year, 3 contracts with AMA in the tune of 112,000. And so AMA helped to address soil quality, wind and water erosion, degraded plant condition, field sediment, nutrient pathogen loss, and livestock production. So the next one is the partnership program. And last fiscal year, 1.4 million went to our partner to help with protecting native forest. So here's the example of partners walking the property and addressing any of the forestry concerns in that area. So what does it look like for this fiscal year? How exciting, $25 million available. So through EQIP, we're looking at the initial, what Congress gives our agency, $16 million, CSP, 6 mil, AMA, that's the one we did 3 contracts last fiscal year for 112. So it looks like we got a little bit more this fiscal year. RCPP, so we have a program manager that is working with our partners to talk about different projects that we can work on together. So that one doesn't have a specific dollar amount. And then ACEP, that one is for easements. If anyone is interested in protecting the land rights from development. So we're looking at, making $25 million available this fiscal year. And again, Equip is available year round. So you haven't missed any opportunity. There's still time. Okay, our breakdown by field office. Clearly, Hilo is our busiest. Um, they're looking at, see, 5 million in applications so far. Obligations, excuse me. Um, so across the Pacific Islands, we also, I mentioned earlier, we cover American Samoa and Guam, Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. And then here you'll see we have an office in Lihui. The field office for Oahu is situated in the federal building where JB and I work. We have a field office in Molokai, and Kahului has 31 contracts right now, but Hilo is the busiest. So that's what it looks like by field office. So other than the Farm Bill funding, Congress authorizes us to provide technical assistance. So when I spoke earlier about our field being able to do the 9 steps of conservation planning with you, that is free of charge. We are paid through public funds and we don't charge for the conservation plan. So some of the help that you may, receive in this process comes from our engineering with their designs. Sometimes our field is helping to identify certain species. We have a biologist on staff. If there's any protected, threatened, endangered species or its habitat, and then all kinds of soil data. Our agency was built really from soil scientists back in the days when soil surveys were printed manuals. So lots of soil data available to you. And in terms of the technical specialists, we have over 70 employees throughout the Pacific Islands, and these are some of the positions that they hold. Okay, so the QR code takes you to our website. From the website, there is a link to find your nearest office. As I mentioned, Hawaii County has 3 offices that can assist. So if you want to visit the website, find your nearest office, that is the best recommendation for getting started. There are forms available on farmers.gov. If you remember the talk from Farm Service Agency, they will ask for your adjusted gross income and proof of land ownership. So on farmers.gov, you can download the forms so you have some idea of the questions they are going to ask. Because before you can sign up for the Farm Bill application, they need to identify your TMK. So we do partner with FSA for that kind of information. But I will stop sharing my screen and I'll open the chat so I can read all of your questions.
I'll read the
Um,
questions for you so you can just kind of answer, but that was so helpful. I learned so much too. You're such a great presenter, so thank you so much. I'll go down the list of questions, and if you feel like I'm repeating something, it'll be just good to highlight it. But let's start with Laura's question, which you were just kind of speaking about. Just recap one more time. What is the best way to make an appointment for a field specialist to visit?
Great question. The best way, and I can put the web address in the chat box if I know I took my slides down too quick, but finding your nearest office, that link from the website will offer you the name of the district conservationist nearest you, the phone number, and their email address. So if you are unable to reach the district conservationist by phone, I highly recommend dropping an email just to say, hey, I heard Jolene's presentation, want to know more information. Do you have some time? Come out and visit the farm, schedule an appointment. Um, Sometimes they're out in the field and may miss your call. So my recommendation is email.
Perfect. Okay. The next question, does NRCS work on leasehold lots like KSBE?
Ooh, good question. So we have some projects with leased land, as long as the landowner is involved with any of um, the forms, because when it gets into contracting, right? Say, for example, the Farm Bill practice for equip is a 5-year commitment. If the lease is not 5 years, then that's where we cannot get into contract. Specifically for, is it Kamehameha Schools land? I want to say we're still discussing ways to partner because I think the adjusted gross income becomes the issue.
Makes sense.
Fine.
Okay, our next question from Levon. What is the maximum amount of assistance a landowner can receive? Is it however much we can afford to pay, or is there a cap?
That's a good question. So we have a payment schedule. Basically the agency is saying what we are allowed to reimburse the landowner for each conservation practice. That information is actually available online. You I highly recommend. So the process really is for the field specialist to help identify the resource concern, because we don't want people shopping for a certain practice based on the reimbursement amount. We're in the I guess the mindset of what's the resource, what's the issue on the ground, and then we'll offer this suggested practice. So my recommendation is calling your nearest field office, making the appointment. Um, because even if you look at the payments available by practice, it depends on the resource concern and the area that we're trying to address, right? So say, for example, the property is 2 acres. Well, if a certain practice is only to address, a portion of that 2 acres, then, surely the application doesn't cover the entire field, if that makes sense. We're looking at the area of resource concern to address. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. I think maybe you touched on this, but just to recap for Haley, do shade structures qualify like wind tunnel?
Shade structure as in like not a plant, not a tree. You're talking about like the high tunnel system. I'm sorry. Say the question one more time. Let me see if I
And
can
I'll
find
see
it
if I can, I'll let you unmute Haley in a second here too, but I'll repeat it. Do shade structures qualify like wind tunnel? And let me see if I can get everybody off of mute too. If that makes sense.
when so
There we go.
I know there are standards and specs for the high tunnel system. In the example of the high tunnel system being used because of wind damage to the crop, there might be a certain material, maybe, shade is the material for shade is different than the material for wind. So I feel like there is standards and specs that would depend on that resource issue they're trying to address. I don't think it's a one size fits all for the high tunnel system.
Hopefully that answered your question, Haley. You can unmute if you want to elaborate, but you can put in the chat if that answered for you. But she said yes to protect from wind and sun. Okay. Let me go back on up. Okay, for Brian, for landowners in Kauai, Hana, Maui with undeveloped agriculture land, what are the first steps to become eligible for funding or conservation programs? Are there programs that support land preparation like clearing invasive species or infrastructure?
That's a great question. So I was just talking to the local district conservationist today about this. And she says the land has to be in active ag production. So the agency that would help with getting started is probably not us. It's like the Farm Service Agency where they provide loans to either acquire the land or the equipment, or there's another USDA agency, Risk Management Agency, that helps with like in they help you to assess the risk and then offer insurance coverage. But in terms of the programs and services from Natural Resources Conservation Service, you have to be in active ag production. Like you have to show that there's something growing or trying to grow.
Right.
So while we do have practices for invasive removal, it wouldn't be to get started with the farm plot,
And
if that makes
Byron, our FAM program with HFU really assists with like getting you educated through the process of developing the land. And then like the local, like Maui County grant, the agricultural grant, the 25,000 that comes available every year would be a great one for you to apply for to start with that like land preparation, and then using like education through the FAM program to start getting everything in the ground and going from there and then getting set up with NRCS. But the FSA loan is fantastic too. Yeah.
Jolene, excuse me, can I add something to that? Just
Yeah.
one caveat. And I just wanted to clarify, if you're looking for participation, not only in NRCS, but Farm Service Agency or being eligible for any farm programs, Jolene, let's mention that they need to go to FSA to fill out the
Yeah.
1026 to establish a file so you can receive the conservation planning technical assistance and then move forward and getting to the point where you want to be able to make those preparations to clear invasive species or any other infrastructure that you will be eligible to apply for.
Yes, thank you, boss.
That's perfect. Hopefully that helps you out, Byron. And then next, we'll put this in the chat, but Dan was hoping to have a link to sign up for the newsletter or info letters, or is that an easy website that you can repeat?
I can put it in the chat right now.
Perfect. Yeah, that seems like a really good spot for all of us to sign up for and make sure that you get the e-blasts that come from NRCS, especially just hearing on this webinar, knowing that there's new ones coming out. I love to hear the ones that are specialized for Hawaii too. That was so helpful.
So PIA stands for Pacific Islands Area. NRCS is the Natural Resources Conservation Service. We are in the U.S. Department of Agriculture family. So when you get to that web address, scroll all the way to the bottom. It's the bottom right-hand corner. Maybe a red envelope appears and it's a link to GovDelivery. You can put your email address and select the topics that you want. So if it's only the funding announcements, you don't want to be bombarded with everything else. You can set the parameters for the information you want to receive.
Great question, Dan. The next question, are there any funding options available for fencing?
We do have fencing as one of our conservation practices. Again, it depends on the resource concern. So we're not in the business of building perimeter fences, if that makes sense. There has to be a resource concern, and the best person to answer that is the field expert when you invite them out to your property.
Is there any, this is Leah, is there any funding for facility roofing?
Roofing. The first thing that comes to mind is another sister agency, Rural Development, because they handle more of the structural side of things. Rural Development, their website would be RD, ruraldevelopment.usda.gov. But JB, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember seeing like roofing.
It depends on, as Jolene stated, it depends on the actual, I'm sorry, I didn't turn my camera on. It depends on the actual conservation practice related to the resource concern. But to follow up on that question, what type of roofing, when you say facility roofing, what is the actual facility? Is it a watering facility? Is it a holding facility? Is it a storage facility? Because we do roofing on certain systems related to livestock and animals. So can you clarify that for me?
Leah, feel free to unmute yourself. Let us know if you need help with that in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much. It's the facility I'm referring to is part of the warehouse where we doing like preparing the vegetable right after cleaning. It was during the last storm from the strong wind. Is there
Mhm.
any budget allotted for that that we can apply um to rebuild and fix the roof that was damaged from the previous storm?
We would have to check our standards and specifications for our conservation practices to see if that particular aspect of a facility roof will beat the eligibility requirements. But as Jolene stated, rural development would be the best case scenario without meeting resource concerns. But we can check into that
Mhm.
without
Yes,
any
please.
problem. So allow us to have an opportunity to look into that for you and we'll get back to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Great
You're
question.
welcome.
I heard you mention because it was damaged. I was immediately thinking of the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. If you
Yes.
folks have not seen, they made money available. I want to say 1,500
Yeah, we did
USD.
apply.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good
And
luck with
hopefully
that.
we will get approved. Yeah. Yes. And yeah, that would be great. We'll stay in tune and see what are the available fundings that we can use. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah.
Yeah.
The next question we have is how do we access resource maps?
Ooh, web soil survey. If you um, Google web soil survey, there's a wealth of information that you can drop in your address and it pulls up all the data from the soil survey maps that they've done. We even, well, I know of realtors that use the web soil survey because they want to see how the groundwork, the foundation, lots of valuable data in web soil survey.
Awesome.
It's also available as an app on your phone, your mobile device, web soil survey.
We have one final question, and make sure all the rest of you put your questions in. But the last question is from Levon. If a family is growing small scale for 3 homes on an Ohana compound, would they be able to have a field specialist assess their property and create a plan? A lot of families in Wailua talking about this once everything cleaned up.
Yeah, great question. So I remember hearing zero point 0.1 acre was the minimum size. So, I mean, I can't give you the exact measurement, but if zero point 0.1 acre is about what, your growing area is, that would qualify.
Fantastic. That answered her question. Is there anybody else that would like to hop in with any questions? You can unmute yourself, or do we feel like we've answered everybody? That was I love our question and answer sessions. They're always so great. Everybody's so engaged.
I have one more quick question I'll ask you just regarding the high tunnels. Can you clarify, do you have to grow directly in the ground to qualify for those, or could you have raised beds?
We do have raised beds as an option. It does have to be in soil.
Yeah.
So I am aware, and JB can correct me if I'm wrong. If the soil health is the resource concern, there is a practice that can be approved for up to 1 foot of healthy soil being brought in. JB, I hope that was correct.
Correct. You are correct.
Okay. Okay, I can keep my job.
Wonderful, so informative. We'll just give it a moment if anyone else has any additional questions. Ashley, do you have anything to add before we wrap it up here?
I don't. Just that this is recorded. We will have it on our YouTube within the month. And if you sign up for our newsletters, as we send these out, we put a recap of every single one. This was our 7th that Miley has organized for us, and every single one has been just so helpful and educational. So if you know of anybody this would help, please forward it their way. And a big reminder that you don't have to be a farmer to be a part of the union if you want to support this type of work, these types of free educational webinars, please become a member. Please tell your neighbors to become a member. There's lots of benefits to being in the Farmers Union. So thank you, Miley.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ashley. And a big mahalo to everyone for being here tonight. And a special thank you to Jolene and JB for all your wonderful insight and knowledge. I hope that gave all you guys really a clear pathway into some of these programs. And just know that the Hawaii Farmers Union is always here to support. So feel free to reach out directly. All right. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank
Thanks.
you, everyone. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank
all
you
of
very
you
much.
too.